Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There's a bunch of different scopes in Cold War Warzone now with the new guns, but which one is the new VLK or the new Canted hybrid? Which one does work for your guns the most, gives you actually magnification that is for real magnification? Because the actual 3 arms, for example, feels like it does not give you 3 times, where the Visiontech 2 times feels like it gives you a 4 times zoom, and then the Royal Kross 4 times feels like it gives you even more than 4 times. So the zoom doesn't feel like the zoom, even though we have values on here. But which one is like the best scope to use for your long range guns, for your DMR 14, Type 63, Stoner, Crick? What is the best scope that gives you the best outcome? Might it be the Silver Thermal, the Vulture scope zoom? Interesting, the Vulture custom zoom has different zoom steps, but it glints, obviously. The Hangman RF, which one is the scope that works the best? Let's test it live. There are 2 very important things about the scopes. First, how much zoom does it actually give, as we talked about? And second, how much recoil does it reduce / how much visual recoil does it have? Because it's not only about the real recoil, it's also about the actual zoom feeling, the actual shooting feeling. Like when you spam it away and the whole frame of your scope wobbles, that's awful. So these things we'll need to take into account too. Not the actual recoil, also the feel. The feel is a stat. We're going to be using the Type 63 for our testing because the Type 63 and the DMR are 2 very loved rifles by the community. We're going to be trying to figure out the best scope for your Type 63 / DMR, but that will also be translatable to every single gun then in the Cold War. We're going to start the testing with the Visiontech 2 times. It feels like it has more magnification because it zooms really close into the scope. And the good thing about the Visiontech 2 times is it does not have any recoil visual wise. So when you're tapping it away, you're still feeling very good. There is some idle sway in the scope, obviously due to the gun build we're running. See that? The idle sway is minimal. Let's see how it is if we're tapping it very fast. So it pulls to the right with the gun. Now the actual 3x. And as I said, the actual 3x also has way more idle sway. I mean, look at the freaking idle sway in that. Obviously more magnification. But if you look at the scope, like it feels not really more zoomed in, to my opinion. The 2 times for some weird reason feels more zoomed, and this scope in itself feels very unstable already. Might actually consider putting like an idle sway attachment on the gun to kind of prevent it from going left and right like this. That might also be the explanation why the 2 times feels so much more stable, because like you're gonna be trying to get one spot here and then spam away. And as you can see, we have like the more or less same recoil pattern, but due to the idle sway, the gun is like all over the place. Let's do it really fast. So if you're trying to spam a target, it feels the same, or it is the same from a look here, but while you're spraying away, you notice how the idle sway is just between every shot, making your gun go different. And that goes also for if you're spraying. The Royal Kross 4 times is a weird scope. It might be a 4 times zoom, so it feels close, but you feel so constricted in the scope because of exactly how it looks. The idle sway is extreme in this one, but just like the way you actually zoom in, the whole scope obstructing your vision, alone that would be a reason to not use this scope. Then if we're spamming it away, you see how the idle sway takes it all around the place. It's kind of like in a circle, the idle sway takes it. Very interesting. If you actually would put the suppressor off and put an idle sway attachment on, this gun would be even more precise than it has ever been. It's not really needed, but we'll definitely do experiments with that too. I mean, all the sprays, all the spams, like they do feel exactly the same. This feels honestly way more idle sway driven. So far, the Visiontech 2 time, the easiest to shoot due to no idle sway. Susat MultiZoom is a whole another beast of a burden. With this kind of mini zoom in the zoom, being able to go in, the frame's still thick. It feels a bit better because the zoom in the mini zoom seems feelingly to not sway this much. I mean, you can see the scope definitely does not have as much sway as the 4 times. And if you're spamming it away, especially zoomed out, like zoomed in, the recoil feels way worse, obviously. Zoomed out, you're actually feeling relatively okay. And you can spam it away really good again. So all have like a really good linear curve. This one in zoomed in gives you the bigger idle sway feeling. You can see that I'm shooting pretty much in a circle around the target. So we have this cluster, but it's being done in a circle. Now the Hangman scope, really nice zoom. The frame, the relatively thick blocking vision too. A lot of idle sway. What I really like about the gun is the rangefinder. Rangefinder's like pretty cool. You just always know on what distance you're shooting straight away. So that's kind of like cute. Oh yeah, that's you can't find that range. 200 meters. So that's kind of cool. The reticle, let's see when we spam it away. And there you see a lot of visual recoil again. Like the left and right bounce of the scope, the idle sway again, determining where it goes. That's really interesting. You spam it away. The idle sway is obviously more neglectable, as you can see. The faster you shoot, the more neglectable it is. But the thing is that the scope itself just really, like I can shoot one bullet and the next bullet will already be here. And the next bullet will already be here. And shift, holding shift to hold breath, does nothing. When we crouch, idle sway tiny bit reduced. Damn, standing up. One shot. Two shot. And this also affects the spray. We'll see that on the AR testing. Now to the multi-zoom. The interesting part about the multi-zoom is in its one-time state, it has no idle sway. Like you can just spam it away. It feels like there's nothing going on. You could be on target, but obviously you also have a very minimal zoom. Now, second zoom stage. Same, still, no idle sway. You can just really tap it away. Feels very good on point. Third stage. Again, the idle sway, minimal. Going further in. The scope glints, keep that in mind. Next. Now we're talking about some idle sway here. We're getting it slowly in. Even more idle sway. You can see like the higher the zoom goes, the more idle sway we have. Obviously here in the very last stages, we're going crazy. We're gonna be tapping it. You have the same recoil pattern, so it always goes this U form, and then in a circle, and then in another U, and then in a U, and then we circle. It draws like an upwards U and a downwards U and an upwards U and a downwards U. We're just swaying around here, right? So what we have seen here with all these scopes on the Type 63, there are no VLK scopes in the Cold War. None of them feel tremendously less recoily. All of them had like the same recoil / the idle sway obviously played a big role. So with the Visiontech 2x you had, and the obvious Vulture's custom zoom, the Vulture custom zoom glinting though, you seem to have the less sway. Axial 3-arms already had sway and that played a role, and the scope was like bouncing left and right. So the Visiontech 2x seemed to be the best so far for me to use. But now we tested this on the Type 63, we went through all the scopes. Let's take an AR to see if our findings make sense. And let's also do the idle sway experiment. As it turns out, and I did actually not know that, there is no idle sway control attachment on the tactical rifles, as there is not on the ARs. None of these attachments says it makes idle sway better. The sniper rifles do have it, the idle sway reduction, but there's no attachment that reduces the idle sway really on these. And if we go for the ARs, for example, too, nothing reduces idle sway. That's really intriguing. So the Visiontech 2x, even without like now testing it, seems to already be the best in that regard. Let's put that to a test. The Visiontech 2x has a very good zoom in, and the visual recoil in the scope is not really given. The Stoner obviously has a very normal, straight up recoil pattern, so we're not going to see the big difference in these. But now let's see how the idle sway does play a role. Now with the Axial 3 times that we generally feel like is the worst scope, kinda, it doesn't do anything right and it feels extremely weird. The frame goes crazy when you're doing this. I mean, alone the obstruction of the frame makes you not want to shoot this scope. Like, you're trying to shoot it, you're trying to hold it still, but the whole thing is vibrating like crazy. The recoil is the same. As you can see, we have the one curve with the other curve. It's more or less the same. There's not much of a big difference. But alone from the shooting field, trying to shoot this one still, the hell went. Like, that's what we already learned from the Type 63. It's crazy. Also, when we're looking at the idle sway here, yes, also on the LMG, big idle sway. Now let's go for a higher zoom scope. Anyways, a weird scope, but we have this gigantic frame. Now if we're shooting, the frame is actually okay, but you can see the reticle is bouncing really hard. How would you align that one or try to align that one in any way on target? Again, the spray is the same. There is not much different. We're talking about a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little bit more straight. But there's not much difference in the scopes when it comes down to that. Right now, again, from a shooting field, the Visiontech's 2 times the best. The Axial 3 arms feels like really stable, but when you look at shooting the scope, you get like a straight up aneurysm. Indifferent of any big magnification or not, my favorite one is like kind of this quick dot LED, because it does not have any feld recoil. It just beams away. You can just straight up yeet it in, put it on a target, doesn't matter which distance. Is he here? Is he here? And you're just gonna go pop, 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 and your recoil does not feel existent. And that's when I'm saying we're talking about felt recoil versus actual recoil. So the curve again is more or less the same. We're going good here, but we have absolutely no felt recoil on the Crick, on the Stoner, on anything. I just really like to use the quick dot LEDs, the 1.37 times magnification, the 1.25 times magnification, the low magnifications, because they just feel so good due to the extreme idle sway and due to the fire rate also making the frame bounce like crazy. What did we learn from this experiment? There are minimal differences in the scopes. We're talking about absolute minimal differences in the sprays. So the spray is a tiny bit more to the left, a tiny bit more to the right. The bullets are a tiny bit more clustered, but nothing where we talk about the VLK scope or the Canted hybrid that significantly feels different. I mean, in the Warzone Modern Warfare weapons, there was no question. VLK scope, VLK scope, VLK scope. There was no other option. This was just the thing. Then it came out with the testings of true game data that Canted hybrid helped. Here, I would say right now, there's none of these scopes that kind of freaks me out like crazy. Obviously, as I said, the Visiontech 2 times feels the best for me because there's no idle sway in the gun. That gives you a very good shooting feeling. The scope doesn't bounce, wobble left and right. It has good reticles to put on. That's also a very important part. What reticles can you put on? I kind of have been using this one. It feels really clean. Kind of want to have this one unlocked to have an even cleaner one. Want to try this one out too. And last but not least, I would obviously love to have this one to just go crazy. But all in all, it just does feel fantastic and good without big downsides. So I would recommend on your long range guns to either use the Visiontech 2 times, or as I do on my Crick 6, for example, the favorite scope that has been for me right now is the Microflex LED. The Microflex LED has a nice big frame, feels like the biggest frame of these tiny scopes, and you can just shoot without any recoil on any distance. It feels like the holographic side from Modern Warfare with a blue dot, only that you don't have to unlock the blue dot because you already have that tiny red dot going on. High recommendation to give that a try yourself and see how much of a difference that makes. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this video could help you in your scope choices to kind of figure out what you would like to play, which scope it is you would want to have. Cold War is still really crazy right now on the attachments. We don't know what they actually do, if they actually work. Sometimes the barrel is actually not doing what it says it does. It says bullet velocity and damage plus, but the damage plus is not added. You know, the recoil is not the recoil it does. So you have to really test every single attachment, and you can't trust any of the stats that is actually written on the attachment. And that is awful for us testers. I mean, I look at JGOT, I look at True Game Data, and that provide a lot of knowledge that I seep in and they use for my videos too. So thank you for these two to do their testing that I then affirm with my own testing pretty much, and then bring down to you to watch. Hope it helps you to really get yourself felt in, to narrow down what you would like to play and how you would like to play your guns. If you found out anything yourself because you're doing your own testing, please do tell us in the comments. We would love to know. The community does a great tribute here too. I'm having been doing the scope testing now because I got a tweet from a viewer. So that's his fault that we did the scope testing video. Enjoy. And what scopes are you playing on your guns? Plus, don't forget Twitch TV Ponyhof and Ponyhof Plays the Second Variety YouTube channel. And then see you soon in Verdansk.